Hi, and thank you for joining us tonight on another episode of Breaking Reality. We have with us tonight, our guest is Gene Kahler, or Kahler? And
Taylor.
Kahler? Okay.
Yes,
Said it right the first time.
you did.
I shouldn't have second guessed myself. Tonight we're going to be talking about spirituality and consciousness. But before we get into that conversation, Gene, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Sure. I started this journey 30 years ago, and it's a journey that I find never ends. I've been a shaman for over 20 years, a facilitator for that 20-year period. Been trained with ayahuasca, yopo, and iboga, through the Uando. And ever since that, I found spirituality. I've spent my life raising my consciousness through the vibration that comes from our sacraments. And that's me by night. I help people overcome many issues in life. And then by day, I'm a construction superintendent.
Excellent. So, what got you started down your path with your spiritual connection?
And that's something I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth about tonight. Spirituality, the path to it. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a path to spirituality that I've seen, and I've been through quite a few hundred people with my little church over the years. And everybody starts out with that path. My particular path at 34 years old, I was pretty wild, like most 34-year-olds. And then I had an accident in a boat. It ran me over, and I got to take that a little trip down the bright white tunnel, as you might say. And I'd have to really contribute a near-life death experience in my own way that set me on the path to spirituality. But that didn't happen for about another 10 years. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go, too. But that's what I'm also noticing and looking at is what are the paths that people take to get to that spirituality? So I started kind of analyzing that. You got near-death experience. A lot of this can cause PTSD, in my opinion. A lot of times people are scared into spirituality by going to church.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's many people who've been pretty much traumatized in church. Some of the things that were said, I remember as a child growing up, remember this day. So it has something to do with, the effect on the mind from way back and conditioning us. So, that's another way to spirituality is, one way to put it, the fear in God. Well, there should be no fear in God, in my opinion. And, that's why, I really lean myself, to pantheism as a pantheist. And where everybody has their belief. And with me and the way we believe, with our little church, we want everybody to believe what they want. We don't infringe on them beliefs.
Right.
But all they have, and many of them may not have a path to spirituality. Some of them, they're on that path still because a lot of them claim nothing. It's like an atheist, or they will claim evolution or, some other ways that we've been formed.
Right.
I encourage them to believe that. And to me, they're on that path to spirituality yet because, they just quite haven't seen and been as deep as some of us have. Some of it, the path to spirituality, takes place, like I said, through horrific accidents, where I call PTSD, a horrific accident of some type, or being molded into spirituality. And that comes from the way that you're brought up in a very, and I'm not saying spiritual, but maybe a very strict religious type home.
Right.
And a lot of people are forced down that path of spirituality.
Yeah, that's kind of how I came. I grew up in a really strict Christian household, Midwestern Bible Belt area.
Yeah.
Going to church 3 to 4 times a week, read the Bible, And it was a full gospel non-denominational church, and it had it had its pluses, but it also had its drawbacks. And personally for me, I started seeking another path when I was 15. I got introduced into some things through my own path, through some opportunities I had to work with some Native American elders that started to induct me into the path of the mystic, which is honestly what I consider my path now.
Very good. Um, and when it comes to molding a person, there are some words that, if they sound bad, but it's reality, really. I mean, we're molded to that. And I wish I would have had maybe different molding before, I got run over by a boat, something like that.
Right.
I mean,
I think we'd all hope that we'd have something before we have to have that to bring us around to it.
Yeah, that big eye opener, it rang my bell, as he might say. But, it rang my bell in a way that set me looking in a different direction. Because the bell ringing that was going on before, going to church and studying the Bible, which there's nothing wrong with the Bible, and you'll never see me knock a religion or the Bible or any good book. Mankind needs hope.
There's wisdom and truths. There's wisdom and truths in all the spiritual texts and all the sacred texts. And the funny thing is, if you look at them, a lot of them have very close similarities through them as well. There's a lot of parallels in the parables and the teachings and stuff that goes on in these sacred texts.
Yes, I've noticed throughout reading, because of the metaphysics, metascience that I've had to study, come and do what I do as a shaman. I've studied that, and actually I like what I study, so it makes you want to go even deeper and deeper and deeper till you consume all the knowledge that you possibly can. And I actually love that about becoming what I have. Like I said, it's a calling. It's just not something, I'm going to be a shaman today. That all comes from here.
Right.
But, as I learned, followed my path, I started to learn. I had the path in the beginning where, it's church family, but it wasn't like we made it every Sunday. But it did mold me into that particular path.
Right.
Well, after I got my bell rung, like I talked about, that opened me up a few years later when I experimented with sacraments, and then my eyes got really opened. Wasn't quite sure what I was looking for, but I knew there was something different out there. And that set me on a path of, with all the other many hobbies I had, the shamanism, religion, science, metaphysics, mystics. That's, and obviously the Anunnaki, otherworldly, you might say, aliens. I've studied all of that because first of all, it's part of our culture. And as we all know, it goes very, very, very far back in history. So I tried to study all that and put it all together, and it's a lifetime of putting stuff together. But my learning throughout the years and the knowledge that I've gained from it has set me on a path to be where I am to this day and helping other people. And that path of spirituality that I ended up taking wasn't traditional by no means. But it's the only path for me and the people that are around me. It's the only path that we've ever been able to find. And we've been to all the churches and, to the other gatherings. It never really worked out. And then we found true comfort and love with the sacraments within our own church and our people. And, that path to spirituality, that's almost as important as the spirituality itself.
Oh,
because that whole path has got a story for everybody that's on it.
Well, a lot of times,
and I like it when I hear them.
The journey is the important part, not the destination.
There's a lot of knowledge on that journey. And see, with the sacraments that we have at our church, the first ceremony or two, the people go through a healing process. But once they go through that healing process, I go to church every month. So I don't have nothing to heal from no more. So I get to all the better things, the wisdom, the knowledge,
Right.
truth.
Starting to unlock the keys.
That's the part where I sit and dwell in the spirit world. That's the particular shaman that I am and work with, and how I facilitate to my people. Now, with that said, that has taught me a lot, and it's really over the last, especially 5 years, changed me. I had a little PTSD that kind of set in, and I got back to what I'm supposed to be, and my life started turning back around again. I tell people a lot, follow your gut. As one of the easiest ways to know the universe is communicating and talking to you. It happens to all of us. Follow your gut. And if you don't feel that spirituality you're getting, wherever you're getting or wherever you seek it, start looking elsewhere. There's a lot to offer out there. But
Absolutely.
I also want people to be cautious about that path they're taking to spirituality. I mean, obviously they think I'm nuts, but most people that, sit down
I honestly,
and talk with us.
I think a lot of people who are truly spiritual are considered crazy by the mainstream society.
Well, and speaking of that, there's a lot of study that I did over the years, about schizophrenia and stuff. And what I found, and with working some of them, the homeless people and that I do, if they're in a realm, and from talking with them and from what they're seeing and they're talking about, I kind of look at them and it's like they're already there. They're just not able to come back out of it. So they're there not understanding because it's on full time all the time.
Right.
So,
I actually knew a young lady who was considered schizoaffective. And from what she was telling me, she was able to have coherent conversations part of the time, and then other parts of the time, she was in another realm dealing with other things. And from my conversations with her, and from my work with sacraments and plant medicines, and my work in the aspects of shamanic journeying and that whole realm that we go into, and those other realms that we work within, she was describing those realms to a T.
Yeah. That's why, it's so important to continue this work. And I'm not going to stop. I mean, I'll fight to my last breath for my people in this little church we have. We firmly believe what we're doing is all right, first of all. And there's nothing else that brings us to this consciousness that we seek and we have to have to be near our Creator. And that's the bottom line. All the laws and all of that.
These sacraments were gifted to us from the Creator. And for anyone to say, hey, you can't use these because we're going to deem them illegal, they're going against the laws of creation.
I've studied a lot of the case law. This is what I'm doing. I've aligned myself with the right groups, obviously.
Yep.
I seek their information that they have because it's information that I'm going to need also in the future, I'm sure. I'm going to align myself with people that are going to stand with me because I put myself next to them or in front of them.
Right.
That's the kind of person I am. So as this goes on, and the secrecy that I've kept all through these years, I kept for my own protection and the few people around me. But my visions also tell me different. It starts to open up.
Well, it's a thing that we're seeing it now where the spiritual leaders and the people that are working with these things in a truly sacramental manner are stepping up, and they're standing shoulder to shoulder in front of the people that they are serving. And that's really the true role of a leader, is to be out front. You don't lead from behind. You don't sit there behind your people and say, go do this. If you're not out front, and as a spiritual leader, I mean, if you go back into some of the things, and even going back into the Bible where it talked about what the roles of a pastor was they was someone who looked over their herd, and they use the term shepherd. They refer to it as a shepherd. A shepherd doesn't stay back at the house while his sheep's out in the field. He's out in the field with them. He's protecting them. And whenever, the wolves come to the door, or they come to the field, he's the first person out there.
Well, that's what that cane was for.
Exactly.
Keep the brains out of the wolf.
Exactly. They're standing the front line. They're protecting the sheep. They're out there protecting that flock and that herd, because that's sacred to them.
Well, that's the way I am with us at Vine of Enlightenment. I stand in front of my people. The small church that we have, they know where my heart is, every one of them.
A couple of them have already popped up into the chat, and they have said things like, thank you, Gene, for all your help, and so blessed to have crossed Gene's shaman's path.
Deemed shaman. Yeah, I was deemed the shaman years ago, and that kind of stuff. Then Facebook and all of that stuff, so I put it in. There's a lot more to being a facilitating shaman than serving a cup of tea. Everybody thinks it's something glamorous. Yeah, you've seen me cleaning the purge buckets, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Glamorous. It's funny. I love my people. I do.
It's funny that people will sit there and they'll talk about, shamanism gets this weird kind of mystique to it, but the heart of it is truly servitude, and they don't also understand some of the aspects that gets behind it, that what the shaman truly gets into dealing with. Shaman deals with a lot of ugly, dirty things, and like you said, cleaning the purge buckets, taking care of everything, setting up the sacramental space for ceremonies and stuff, and cleaning it up afterwards. And
I really gotta thank Tara. No, she's my fiance. She really helps a lot with it. And I've been working with her for a couple of years, watching her blossom throughout this. So it's been really exciting for me, and all the new members that I've brought into the church, I'm watching them blossom now. So that's really, dear to my heart, and that's why I stand in front of my people. And they know that. But, getting back to, the church and on the quest that we have for spirituality, I get a lot of people from other churches, and I'm not trying to steal their people, but they're coming because they're not getting what they need from that church. And so far at that point, they haven't found that spirituality, that feel in their heart, that love that we find there. They're not getting that. I mean, sure, you got to go through the process of purging and going through some of the bad things in life. But like I always said, that's 10 years of therapy in one night with me.
Yeah.
I've seen it change and help so many people, including myself.
When you sit with the medicine with someone who is in tune with the medicine to work with you with it, the benefits that comes out of it, no matter if it's a shaman here in the United States that you end up working with, or you're working with a curandero down in Peru, or you're working with people in different countries. I know you've worked with people out of Africa with certain plant medicines and stuff as well. We've discussed that in our private conversations and stuff, and some of your travels and stuff that you've done working with different tribal cultures and communities and learning these medicines. And to get to the point to where you're at and your path, it takes a lot. It's not just a quick and easy thing to
Mhm.
do, and
No, and
it's a lot of work and it's a lot of studies, and people
mhm.
don't really understand what a lot of that takes.
No, and Josh, you're really right about that. You know, the amount of classroom time I got, I'm on top of a PhD just about, and the amount that you have to learn. See, when you go out in the jungle, they didn't have all the medical care. They let you flop around and hey, good luck.
Right,
I wasn't at no retreat. I don't believe in retreats.
right,
So I'm able to bring the jungle to us here, and I do it in a safer way than there. First of all, I got 911.
oh yeah,
The other thing is I'm also trained with different medications. Everybody's screened. We go through all the medication everybody's taken, what they need to reduce, and their mental and physical well-being.
right.
So, I mean, I do that, the diet, and that's before you can sit down with us. And I talk to the people. I want to know a lot about them. And, there's some people that use sacraments improperly, like festivals and stuff. A lot of them people that have sat with me in ceremony all of a sudden learn the difference also.
Right,
It wasn't no party no more.
right.
And they're kind of amazed on how come it's in one hand it's a party, and then they sit with me in a ceremony in a spiritual way, and then I take you to a whole new place.
Set
That's
and
what they
setting.
every bit, and anybody has no idea what it takes to sit there and facilitate and absorb all that energy. You have no idea. Some of it's beautiful, great energy.
It's
The first
some of it you're
couple
doing
times, it's a lot of bad energy.
exactly, and
All the negative energy.
and part of your
Everything.
role as a shaman sitting there when you're grabbing that negative energy that's coming out of them, and a lot of people don't understand this, and this is something I haven't really talked about on the show, but it's something I know about from my own experiences and my own path, is when you're working with someone and they're starting to purge and they're purging that negative energy out, the part of the role is to take that and work in the true realm of alchemy of transmutating that energy from that negativity into something positive. And that's a lot of the work of what a shaman will do sitting there with someone, is work on transmutating that energy. They don't realize that shamans work with energy more than they do these concoctions that we brew.
It doesn't come from my mouth. It comes from here and here. The purging you're talking about, and that's one thing I teach people because I use ayahuasca as a sacrament, and like as most, you have to purge. So as I tell people, as you purge, I want you, and you know it's coming, you know it's happening,
Oh
and
yeah.
I want you to get it from that lower chakra, and I want you to bring it up, and when you start to purge, you purge all that negativity. Put meaning into it. Put that voice, vibrate that pineal gland even more as mother takes over, and let that purge come out. And that's where I start taking over. And a lot of that purge, it goes right down the toilet.
Right.
But the energy that I absorb, I usually sleep for about 2 days afterwards, and I'm usually sick for at least 24 hours myself. And
Yeah.
Tara knows how much it wears me out because she's there with me at the aftermath. And
I was going to say there is a thing known as a shaman sickness, and that's literally what it is.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And during facilitating, I've had requests that I really don't do anymore, where people that want me to take them to places that they probably really shouldn't be. So, I keep everything in a very high vibrational, very bright light with all love. And the one thing about it, we all know that this is sacrament's been used for thousands of years, and not just by us good people, also by bad people. And they also can control and work through these realms. So that's what we combat always as a shaman, as somebody on the other side, as you may say. We just don't fight battles here. We're always fighting battles there. Because you remember this, for all the good I will do, all the purging, for the love that will show out of the church, or just one ceremony, with all of that. And I tell people, remember this. It will start to be unraveled as soon as all the good I've done and shown, it will start to be unraveled immediately by the darker negative forces, the low vibration. So to always keep that in mind. And there's a lot that goes on before a ceremony. We'll talk, everybody gets smudged. There's some things that I'm adding to our ceremonies in the future to make them more pleasurable for people. But we keep it pretty tight and right, is what we do. Because everybody's well-being is the most important thing to me. And for them to get out of this is what they need.
Absolutely.
And I'm able to bring people out of that experience if need be. Either I do it through here, my voice, and talking them back. And if it's a medical emergency, then of course we go to other medicines to bring them back out. But, I'm glad I'm a shaman now than 500 years ago. I'll be honest. I got a whole bunch more to work with.
Right. There's a whole different set of tools.
I can reach more people than them.
There's a whole different set of tools at your disposal now versus 500,000 years ago. Go back far enough, and they actually might have had more tools than what we did now. We've just lost them to time. But that's a whole different conversation to get into.
That's a whole other night. You bet. But yeah, them tools are important. Like, hey, I got electronic blood pressure machine. Before, after, we got stethoscopes to listen to your heart. They didn't have all that way back. We have things to help people through. And like we've talked about before, in the hundreds that I've been on for all these years, I have never had a bad experience. Now, I take that back. What people call, I hate the word trip.
Yeah, me
bad
too.
Trip. I hate that because it's so much more meaning to what we do.
When I hear people say trip, it just gives that kind of party, that misuse connotation. Yes.
Misuse, yeah. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm use that word just for now, but people will look at that as bad trip. And I never had a bad one. I've had some kind of disturbing things. I've had to purge myself, little PTSD. Got it. But bad. Even when it was telling me stuff I really didn't want to know or see about myself, I sat there, I took it, I cried about it, sure. And then I realized what it was showing me. It was beautiful.
That's the shadow work aspect of it. I mean, and people don't realize that shadow work is every bit as important part of doing this as the light work. As every bit as important of seeing the bright, colorful images and having the messages given to you by elders and ancestors. When you're showing those darker aspects and you're taking into that darker point, that's shadow work, and that's showing you stuff that you need to work on as well. And that is every bit as important as the other aspects of it. And while it can be scary, it's not something to be scared of.
Right. And I try to tell everybody that, it's, 3-4 hours long. There's no on or off switch. So I try to prep them up for that. Give them comfort that there is an ending time. There's been times where, whoa, I guess I'm here forever. But we're not. It didn't bother me. It's pretty nice, really. But, there's so much purpose with the sacraments and what we really get out of it, the love. I really like is how it brings us together as a group, community. A tribe is what I call us. We're our own little tribe. We got a great group of people. We're very cautious about expanding, obviously. I'm going to continue my education. and I'm going to continue to help people within my church, and we will bring people in slowly. I got to prove myself somewhat, and I have some new and bigger things coming up in the future. I hope to help with addiction with my church, and I know this goes against my church. I know this also goes against many other things, but it's something I've been trained in, and I have to bring it to the people who are suffering. With the methamphetamines, the opiates, cocaine, that's really been eating our country up. Alcoholism's off the charts. We all know that. Antidepressants.
Oh, absolutely.
Selling truckloads.
Absolutely.
So, and my whole thought.
And the sad thing is, we do have access to plant medicines that can help with this, but they are, and I know the specific plant medicine that you're talking about. We won't go into discussing it, but I know the specific plant medicine you're discussing, or that you're talking about. But there are also other plant medicines that work maybe not as well, but they work along the same pathways and stuff. And these are repressed by, governmental laws and restrictions and all sorts of things. And it just baffles me that when we can show time and time and time again, look at this person, look at what has happened when they've worked with this plant medicine during this ceremony. Hardcore addict, now recover. I actually had a lovely young lady as a guest on the show not too long ago. Lauren Perkins was on, and we done a show on recovering from addiction through spirituality. She was an addict, and
this is where the ayahuasca helps tremendously.
For her, it was working with DMT and psilocybin. And those helped bring her out of her addiction.
I've worked with quite a few people with that, with the Aya, and many issues, and I've had a lot of success with it. However, there are some addicts where I have to go to the next level, and they have to spend a few days with me, and we'll get into that on another show. But
absolutely,
very powerful plant medicine that I'm blessed to take as far as the land and seas reach.
Gene, we have a question here from someone that you know very, very well. T. Knowles. It says, do people blame the shaman when they experience an emotional journey?
Yes. Many times I've been looked at when somebody would, most of the time it was with the sacred pipe. When I would use them sacraments, which is the big brother of ayahuasca, the tryptamine, and as it was vaporized, they would get to the very top very quickly, as I might put it. And they go through ego death, and as much as I can explain over and over, look them in the eye, tell them exactly what's going to happen. There's some people that I call it the WTF club. They're in the WTF club afterwards, and I've had them actually mad at me because they had a ego death experience that they weren't ready for, and some healing that had to be done.
And having gone through ego death myself, it is not a easy process. It is an extremely painful process. But the results of it are beautiful.
Beautiful. Well, it took them about 10 minutes after getting their feet back on this dimension, and at that point, it was all hugs and kisses, and told me that it was absolutely beautiful. But he also told me that he absolutely hated me when he came back. And I've had a few guys like that, and I've had some females like that. I've had a few meltdowns. As many people as you do, you're going to have some meltdowns.
Yeah, of course.
There's people going to have put in front of them what they weren't expecting.
And that's the thing when you work with plant medicines. You you may go into it with one intention, but what you're going to be
Sure.
showing and where the plants are going to take you to do the work can be somewhere totally, completely different than you thought.
Exactly. And see, I don't control that. Other controls that, not me.
Exactly.
She will show you everything you need to see, and not too much or not, not enough or not too much. When you get there, it's her house. You must respect her in her house, or she will make it miserable on you. So, and I tell everybody too, don't go in there looking for the lottery numbers or the next horse race. You're going to get spanked. Trust me, I already tried. You're going to get spanked.
Yeah.
And it ain't cool. But one thing I want to say, to give just one little bad story, which everybody hates them, but interesting, and really beautiful one. Take 2 minutes each. One that comes to mind, the group that I facilitated for one time. The particular girl, her boyfriend, he went back. It was beautiful. And it was her. We prayed. And she got in a little bit of a real bad spot. And it went psychoactive really quickly. And it would have been something I'd term like out of a horror movie, where you see the head spin around and everything. Well, that's kind of what it was like. And she was going to something. So at that point, I'm really in there with her, really working hard. I mean, I have other people there. It's all my facilitation I do. And she went off the deep end really bad. And she got violent with me. First one ever. And this girl tore my shirt off, ripped her nails through my back, bit a chunk of meat out of my shoulder, out of my arm. So I was getting pretty beat up by her, but I knew that time was on my side. And I knew if I just kept working with her that I'd get her back. And when I finally did, I said, well, haven't had one quite like that yet. This goes back sometime. And then she shared her experience. And her experience was basically she was shown the future. And that future was she was in a horrific car wreck and she got helicoptered out by, helicopter and all that. And she lost her boyfriend. And the car was torn in half. Every bit of that she's seen, she told me about. Every bit of that happened 2 weeks later.
Oh, man.
So I tell people to be careful what you seek. And that's why I spend so much time with people. Now I want to tell you a beautiful story. Another facilitation, a friend of mine that's probably on here right now knows. Sacred pipe. This man come back crying in our arms. And he asked, what's wrong? And he said, well, the story of Jesus. And so many of them were to help the blind man see, right? And I said, well, of course, beautiful story. And he's weeping, crying. And this man looked up and said, well, you done the same for me. Well, knew better because he walked in the place, he wasn't blind. What do you mean? He said, well, I've been colorblind all my life. He said, for the first time in my life, crying. He said, I know what blue is. I know what yellow is. I know what red is. Thank you, Dean Shaman. And that was a blessing that was sent on him, that sacred pipe. So he got to see color for the first time in his life at, my age. So them things like that we do are very special and dear to me, and what keeps me doing this. I can bring somebody out of the gutter, show them a new way of life, to be around good people, and they change and they morph in front of me. Most beautiful thing next to childbirth that I've ever witnessed in my life. That's why I keep on that path of spirituality.
Absolutely, and it is a rebirthing that's happening with people that are doing that. They're gaining their life back. They're gaining a new life when people are coming out of that aspects, and it's one of those things that when working with people like that, like the guy who got cured with color blindness, it's a matter of this is something I've talked about, and you can tell me whether or not you agree with this in the same. But in work that I've done with some people, and I know probably work that you've done with people, people will give you credit of, oh, hey, you healed me, but it wasn't
Not me.
It wasn't Gene, it wasn't Josh, it wasn't any of the other shamans or spiritual leaders. it's spirit working through us as a conduit. We're simply a vessel that spirit and energy works and moves through. And we have got to a point where we've opened ourselves and allowed ourselves to be that vessel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Um,
and so, in all the work that is done, it's not per se, Gene or Josh or whoever.
nope. It's not me at all. It's 100% the creator. And that's the only reason I'm here doing it. Because I'll be honest, when I got into all this way, way back years ago, I thought, man, this is nuts. This is crazy. I thought, there's got to be somebody else better than me. Why me? I mean, I don't want this job. Are you kidding me? I got beaten ahead and until I surrendered and said, I bow. And now I bow. I take orders, and these are my orders. I mean, what am I supposed to do about it?
I have been there and realized that the more that I tried to fight against this calling and this path that I have been called to, the more I just got slapped around.
Yeah. That's why I spent all my life at this, just about. People that, I just want people to get the right training, spend the time, spend 10, 20 years before you go facilitating, learn it, learn all the reactions that can happen. Because, something new is always around the corner that you just quite weren't ready for. And, it's important. But, that's why I've spent a lot of time learning these sacraments. And I'll never quit, because there's other countries, there's other cultures, and I'm sure I'm going to find something else. But I mean, I've kind of hit the top of the list, though, with the sacraments already. But if there's something different that'll show me a different geometry, a different perspective, a different doorway into the wisdom and knowledge we know that waits, I'm more than willing to look down that path. And there's never a sacrament. First of all, we just use the same sacraments, but there's never a sacrament or an amount of a sacrament that I haven't tripled. I take it very, very personal on myself, everybody's safety and well-being. So I've walked the outer edge for my people, and I'll continue to do so. And we talked about before, I stand in front of my people.
Right.
So I believe that what we're offering people now, spirituality and consciousness, that they haven't been able to get elsewhere. They haven't been able to receive it, like I said, from another church. And they're running out of places where to turn. So a lot of them people, turn to me. And it's only my job to show them the truth. Knowledge, wisdom, and love. And it's been working. There again, that's by night. By day, I feed this fire that I'm doing because it costs me a lot of money, and I'm a construction superintendent for a large construction company, and I travel and build whatever needs built, hospitals, whatever. And I'm actually out of town right now. I'm in my hotel room, and I'm Oklahoma City working. I have a lot of the Native American people here, and they're also working for me. So we've had some really good discussions over these last few months.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah. And I've contacted some of them about coming down to perform, for my church members, like for our ceremony to come down on a Saturday and stuff like that. So I just got a whole bunch of stuff that I'm always working on. I don't let grass grow under my feet. But to show people this path to spirituality, I don't want them to go the way I had to go, get run over or something. If they can find it in the church and they actually get that and they feel that and they know that, beautiful. If you can't, and you've never been able to, come to us. I'll show you the way. I'll open the door. You got to walk through it, though. You know how that goes.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things. And like one thing I want to say is where I'm at right now is I'm still early in my training in following a very similar path to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I'm still in the early stages of training. I'm working through things. But I've stepped up to a leadership role now, and it's something that I've been called to for a while, and I fought against it, and I thought, well, I'm not ready for it. 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, all of a sudden it hits me in the face. It's now. You're here. You got to deal with it. Accept it. And that's part of what this show is, and what I'm trying to do with this, and the aspects of being able to bring people like you on and talk about these things are so important, so that we can show people, if you're not getting this connection, if you're looking for this connection and you're not getting it where you're at, there's other avenues, there's other places, there's other things that you can look at. There's other, if you're not getting it sitting in a church reading a Bible, or going to temple, or wherever, whatever faith, whatever belief that it is that you are in, if you're just not feeling that connection but you're searching for it, there's other ways out there, and we will help you find them. And it's one of those things that I think, even going back to the Bible, Jesus talked about meeting people where they're at, and connecting with people where they are at, not trying to say, okay, well, in order to be spiritual, you have to come to church 3 times a week, you have to tithe, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to obey this rule and this rule and this rule, and if you do that, you might just be good enough to get a connection.
mm-hmm. I think more of it, the way I look at it, is there are words to make your vibration, your frequency increase. From what I see, the higher that vibration increases, like more gold in your pot.
Oh, absolutely.
And as you, and I think really that's what we're all supposed to be doing. Being as good, love each other, be human.
Right.
And to raise that vibration and frequency, and to get them higher heights of consciousness. I want to talk about that just for a minute too.
Absolutely.
We're talking about that consciousness part, and we talked about the spiritual, and some of the paths to consciousness. But what happens when we're about ready to get there? Well, I've noticed whether it's the sacred pipe or a cup of the tea, there's a point where as the plant medicine starts to take effect on the pineal gland, what I do know, and Dr. Joe Spenza, I think it's pronounced, really describes it well. It's got a great video. Yeah. And he shows the pineal gland and all the little crystals on it and how they shimmer throughout the day in consciousness when you sleep. And when you go to sleep and you get into the REM cycle, certain crystals pop up. It's like keys in a padlock or tumblers. And then you're into REM sleep. Well, with the tryptamines that excite that pineal gland and make it vibrate at a really high frequency, and all them ones that are calcified, well, that stuff starts chipping off when I start vibrating that pineal gland, and it starts to decalcify and blow apart. And then all them little tumblers line up at a certain point with that plant medicine. Ow, the lock turns. That's when you're out of the waiting room. Here we come. And we go to other realms for meditation, knowledge, and wisdom. But love is immediately felt. Of course, you got that purge part to go through. I mean, everybody's got to go through that little purging part, and get themselves all the bad stuff in life out of them. And, it looks really bad. You come to church, I got some people laughing and loving life, and some over here crying and not liking much, But at the very end, all hugs and kisses and love, because every one of them understood what they just went through. Every one of them feel that love. And that's something also dear to my heart that I'm able to provide for these people. And open that door for them.
And love is actually the
Keep doing
highest
it.
frequency that we can vibrate at, is the highest, vibrational frequency we can attain is love. The vibrational
Yes.
frequency
Love,
with love.
yeah, love is the very top one. I know people, some are going to hate this. Orgasm is a very, very high spiritual, by the way. It isn't just for reproducing and here on Earth. That is also a high vibration.
I mean, there's actually, when you really dive into it and stuff, and you start looking at it, the tantric beliefs and the way the tantric stuff works is as you're joining those energies with your partner and you're working towards that climax, you bring these energies up through your chakras, rising that kundalini energy. And and the whole point of tantra is to be able to hold that back till you hit that crown chakra and then release in that crown chakra. And that's I've actually read several articles and stories and stuff along the lines, and a lot of teachings along the lines of that. And it's one of those things that is very, very it's a very powerful thing when people look at it.
It's part of us. It's in our DNA. It is part of us as human. And a lot of things too. People think that it's okay to be alone and this and that. It is to a point. It is to a point. Nomads are cool and this and that. But let's be real about it. We're here as couples. And I'm not going to get into he, she, boy, girl, none of that stuff. Because in our church, we don't care. I mean, we don't care about none of that. Color, sex, we don't care about that. But the companionship of a couple means a lot. And it means a lot to our human race. First of all, you got to get along with that couple. So that takes work out of both people. Companionship, to strive for some of the same things, even though they're not identical. I'm probably going to ramble off into the wrong direction. So I'm sure.
Hey,
another story, another day.
I was going to say, it wouldn't be uncommon for things to ramble off into a different direction on this show. It's happened more than once, and I imagine it will happen many more times.
Right. But, one of the other things that I do like to remind people and tell them, a lot of times, unfortunately, we're looked at as some kind of a cult, some kind of cult or something. This is something demonic, and I'm out there sacrificing whatever. Man, they have no idea. I tell them, you want to come sit with us and meditate in prayer? It's not all about sacraments. Anybody's welcome to come to our church when we're meditating or with sacraments. So it's not all about that. But when you're ready to vibrate that pineal gland and you're ready to go for that next state of consciousness, let's put that key and rotate them tumblers, and I will safely take you there and back, is what I help people with. And then there's the aftercare too, the integration, the integration of the ayahuasca and other sacraments. I like really to let Mother, the sacrament, start on that. And the integration really comes on if they're going to be participating in the church setting monthly. Some people try it and they don't want nothing to do with this. They're good. They've seen all they need, which they always come back, though. I found that every one of them come back. I swear they never will, but a year or two later, 3 years, they come back. And then they start to learn more. But that's what I would like people to do, is to learn this, learn to hold it, learn to love it as it loves you.
Right.
And learn to get the benefits from it.
And the integration's a really important part of the ceremony aspect. While the ceremony itself is great, if you're in there and you're working with Aya or what other sacrament, and Mother Aya's talking to you, and you're being shown things, and you're being shown knowledge and wisdom, or whatever it is you're being shown, if you don't take that out of ceremony and integrate that into your life, if you leave it there, you're not getting the full benefits of, okay, cool, you had a really, really awesome couple hours of getting shown some really great things, but unless you actually do the work to integrate it, you just left it at that.
Right. And a lot of people think, oh, the shaman should integrate for me. No. I'm going to let Mother show you first. Then you're going to start to integrate yourself. Then this is where we come in with aftercare.
Right.
So I'll let it marinate for a while. But, while I'm closing the ceremony, I'm going to start by, I got scriptures written on leather. And, that's written on leather. And they're passages, as you might say. And the reason that I'll be reading these off more in my ceremonies is because of the meaning. But I've been saying this in my head because I don't want to alarm people about the prayer that I'm putting out, because they won't understand a lot of it, especially people that are the first time. I start talking Latin, and they're going to think, who knows what's up next? Some Jim Jones shit or something. You know what I mean? Here, have my cup of Kool-Aid.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've said some of those similar prayers where they're in a language that's not necessarily understood by people that aren't inducted into this path.
So I've been leaving that out, and but now I got enough, new members, my old members, to where now when they hear me going through these passages before ceremony, they can work with some of the other people. Hey, no, it's cool what he's doing. Don't worry, he's not going to sacrifice a goat or nothing here in a minute. It just sounds pretty wild, but I've been going through in my own head before and after I close it out. People don't even know I'm closing it out. That's what I'm doing. But I'm going to be incorporating more of the teachings from my ayahuasca days and, in my Iwando. So, it'll sound really funny to some people, but, the no cult or, like I said, I've been accused of all of that. And with the church members and with podcasts like this, people start watching, learning. I invite people out. Of course, I won't be inviting, the mayor or the prosecuting attorney or nothing no time soon. But, I invite other people.
If they're searching for something and they see that this is really a true path, that could be very enlightening to them, though, too.
I got police officers and everything already, so, right. But yeah, they're also searching and haven't found, and I've helped also them. And, military people with PTSD, anxiety, depression, police officers go through it. It scares me that they're out running around with Prozac and who knows what else, and carrying a gun. Great. Yeah. I'd rather come and see me once a month and then go to work.
Now, one thing I don't know if you know about the ONAC is that the ONAC is one of the only Native American churches that is authorized to do ceremonies for the U.S. military.
Right, yeah. I'm the aircraft carrier, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got that down. Yeah. We're the only tribe, ONAC Native American Church, by the way, which I'm proud to be part of.
Yep, same
Thank
here.
You very much. Yep. And I think that as the future goes for spirituality and consciousness, it is going to grow in leaps and bounds, and this is what scares me. People are going to start to try to jump in as a business. They've already been doing it for 20 years. Business.
And it's important to be leery of those false gurus, those false shamans, those people that are doing this. And a big thing to watch out for is it's been out there. I've seen it. I know people who have experienced it, where there are people who call themselves a shaman, and they use this to manipulate people, to take advantage of them in bad and horrible ways. sometimes financially, sometimes it goes into other forms of abuse and stuff. And you know,
I've heard about.
I've seen more than one case of people being abused while under the influence because
Yeah.
it's someone who saw this medicine and decided that they could use this sacrament, or they could use this plant medicine to their own gain, which is not what it's there for.
Oh, no.
And
Not at all.
and if any of you guys want to know about that stuff, join the Discord community. There's a link down below. You come to me. I will call out the names of those shamans. I have no problem. I won't necessarily do it.
As I will.
I won't necessarily do it on the air right here.
Oh, I will.
Well, I mean, if you want to call some of them out, by all means, do it. But there's been some of them that have done some horrible things to people, and you know, they need to be called out.
See, you know, and I've told many people about this too. I said, you know, and that's quite rotten of people like that. Let me get on to this. When the ayahuasca effects are on, you know, you're really conscious to everything in yourself and your body. It's so. But what the problem is, and what the shaman's doing, even though that person's conscious and know what's happening, you know, they're at a state right now that they trusted somebody to put them in spirituality. So I get very upset over that kind of stuff. And that shaman will maybe abuse the person sexually or whatever the case may be. And, you know, this is happening more out of the country than, by the way, it is here. Because you're out in the middle of a jungle with no laws.
Exactly.
Here,
but it is still happening in the United States, and some of these some of these so-called shamans, and you're seeing a lot of those guys
popping up everywhere.
It's really important before you go into doing ceremony with someone, get to know that person, get to work with them, get to understand who they are, understand their reasons for doing this. And some of them are just going to straight up lie to your face. They're going to do it to manipulate you, and you've really got to take the time to work through it. But let these people out. Check with other people. Talk to other members of that's went through. If it's someone that's got a church like you, I encourage people to talk to other members of your church, and I bet you do as well. I bet you tell them, say, hey, talk with some of these other people and see what they have to say. You know.
Yeah.
And
I have, and I, like I said, it upsets me a lot with the shaman. But things I want to respond to that is, well, I just don't look at the shaman and that happening because it's very, very minute. It's happened a few times. I know I've read it. You know, Google it. It's very seldom. I'll tell you where it happens all the time. Your local church.
Yeah,
all the time. Now you talk about people getting abused while they're, you know, on sacraments and whatever. There's people on Dixon Street. Hell, they're roofing girls all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, with Rufipnol. Boom, Xanax, Rufipnol. So, you know, that's happening all over. So I don't want people to be scared of a shaman. And I got to tell you, when I started this, the early years, I didn't have Tara next to my side. I had just myself. You'd be amazed how many people would come to me, would come to my home, me from Facebook or wherever, and I would take them on a sacred ceremony, pray with them, and I've never met the person. They never met me. And I've asked these people, I'd say, what'd your husband think about you coming over and eating some long-haired shaman, you know, for some spiritual healing? And she said, well, I ended up just telling him I was going no matter what he said. And I asked her, well, what made you trust me? She was real silent. All of them have told me this. We felt it here.
Right.
Through this. We felt it here from you. I've never had an allegation of sexual abuse with my shaman work. Never. There never will be.
No, and those people who do those kinds of things are taking a sacred work and they're perverting it. And just like what's happened in the churches and stuff along those lines. it's a horrible thing. And yeah, I mean, the people that are doing that are but it is important for someone to look into who they are working with. Just because someone says, "Oh, I can give you these sacraments," that might not be
Yeah.
the person to jump in with to do it, because they I mean, it's one of those
Yeah.
things. If they don't have the training, if they don't have the knowledge, and if they aren't skilled in working with this, it can get real scary real quick if something goes wrong.
Sure.
Now,
Well, making sacraments, yeah, something can go wrong pretty quick, and the outcome isn't going to be very good. So yeah, I take special care, but I've been also trained. And
right, and that's
uh,
what's
uh,
important. And it's important that someone knows, especially in working with things like ayahuasca, there's certain medications that can have very dire interactions with some of the chemicals that are in the plants,
correct, correct.
the natural things that are in these plants.
Hmm.
And if you aren't working with someone who knows what these are and are screening beforehand, it can have very dire consequences. And that's a
Yeah.
very important thing. And that's one thing that I know through working with different medicine persons through the ONAC and stuff with different things. You sit down with them, you talk with them, they talk through, they do a medicine check with you. They want to
Same
know,
with us.
yeah,
Same with us.
they want to
Yep.
know, are you on anything that can possibly cause any kind of interactions? And if you are, sorry, we can't give you this. We can work with you in other ways and other modalities, but you can't do ayahuasca because
Yeah, correct.
we're not going to risk it. Now, if you want to take time and come off of those medications, and it's a
Right.
medication you can come off of safely
Hmm.
and be off of without any severe reactions or harm or anything to yourself, then
Right.
yeah, and there has to be a time frame to be off and away from those before you go into these things. And that's
Definitely.
an important aspect of when you're working with a shaman. Make sure you're working with someone that's asking these kinds of questions. If they're just saying, "Hey, give me $800, come here, spend the night, take this tea,"
Be careful.
yeah, that's maybe not the person that you want to work with.
One example: ibogaine and grapefruit juice, deadly. Just
Yeah,
one example. One
and,
example, deadly.
and how many people know that?
I do because I study all this. But
Right,
yeah,
right,
correct.
but
Yeah.
outside of someone that is
No.
trained in working with that specific sacrament,
Hmm.
not many people are going to know that, and that's a
Hmm.
mistake someone could easily make if they didn't know that.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Well, even the pain reliever Ultram. I mean, it's been around for years. Ultram,
Oh,
just a non-opiate pain reliever.
no,
With
actually,
ayahuasca, can
a-
be deadly.
actually, I got some right now because of my hernia, and
Well,
and
you wouldn't
and
be able to do ayahuasca with me because that could be deadly.
and I'm not working with ayahuasca right now,
Well, I'm
even
just
though,
saying,
right,
yeah.
even though that's something that I know because of the MAOI interaction with Ultram and ayahuasca. The MAOI interaction with that medication can be deadly, and
Hmm.
I won't do anything until I am done dealing with that and I am off of it. It is purged out of
That's
my
what I check for.
system
That's some
and
of the
it's
stuff I
clean
check.
through.
Yeah.
Right. And see, these are things that a lot of people wouldn't even think of,
Sure.
and to know. And that's a common medication to be honest
Oh,
for a pain
yeah.
reliever.
It's been around for a long, long time. But it just happens to be one that reacts really, really bad. Um,
Yeah.
another one. Trazodone. They give it to you for sleep. It's a antidepressant, also.
Yeah.
Well, I know for a fact trazodone. That'll can put a stop for you being able to actually go on a journey on the ceremony. It'll actually put the brakes on it.
Right.
So even some of them mild drugs will have a reaction to where you may not get what you were looking for and it was because you didn't tell me all the medications you were really on. So I tell people to be really honest with me, because it's really important to be so for
Yeah,
their own health.
and it even goes into things like different herbal supplements and stuff that you're using. Like I know a big thing a lot of people are using these days is kratom.
Oh, kratom,
For
yeah.
but kratom can have some not so nice interactions with certain sacraments as well, and it can go a couple of different ways too with how it interacts. I mean, kratom and like I even use I've had some use with kava kava. I
Avocado.
and the thing with kava kava is it can actually amplify a lot of these things to a point to where you may not be prepared for it if you've been using kava kava in advance.
Right.
So
I know exactly what you're saying.
you've got to be careful because kava kava can take you to a level if you're using these things and you haven't been prepared and stuff. It can amplify the effects of them to a point and stuff too. So I mean, it gets into a thing of you got to really look into it and study a lot of stuff, and things like kratom and kava kava are legal to use. And but I do say to anyone, if you're going to use any of these plants, look into them, study them, research them, find out about them. Don't just take them because they're out there and someone says, "Oh, this will work for you," or "You might enjoy this," or "This will be cool," or "This will be
And not
fun."
everything's on YouTube either. Not everything's on YouTube, or a lot of misinformation.
Oh yeah,
So be careful of YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
Like
all kinds of quick recipes in there. I caution everybody with that.
yeah.
Consult with somebody like myself.
Like
Really do
my work
research.
with kava kava actually came from someone who had spent years studying the plant and working with it in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and working with the plant and getting to know it, and then they introduced me into it, and I got to kind of learn some about kava kava, and I didn't just learn about the plant. I learned about a lot of the spiritual aspect around the plant as well, and the
Hmm.
spiritual reasons that it was used and
Hmm.
stuff. And then, I've got experience with kratom as well. I think kratom is a great plant when it's used properly, but used
Sure.
wrong, it can be very detrimental to your health, and it can become addictive if you don't use it properly too.
And you're exactly right. I have a few herbs on my website, that are West Africa herbs, and one of the barks, the Muhumbi bark, it's basically like taking a Xanax, but it's a natural substance, and or Valium. It's like diazepam. It has that actual effect to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I have them. Them are for healing and helping people for anxiety and stuff like that. So I keep a few of the ones that I could and I get and I have and I keep fresh, and I keep them for our church members or whoever may want some of those different teas and herbs. But they are truly, they're legal to obtain, have, and use in the United States. Also, they are legal to have. But there are effects to some of these herbs that we get from other countries that are we're not used to here in the Western world because we don't get them, but they're quite beneficial to us. Um, so I'm always looking for new, real herbs, and I test them on myself, before
Right.
I recommend it to somebody or somebody who has taken it that has the particular ailment that it supposedly takes care of. I always like to know more and find out more before I put it on my website. So the stuff I do have there, I've used, and I'm always looking to add to the list. Now, I mean, there's already a great book, and it's about all of the plants that we have just right here in northern North America. Everything from the dandelion root, and the dandelion flower to white pine needles for tea and the effects. There's so many healing properties in all of this. And of course, the Native Americans, they had this stuff down, man.
Oh
They've been
yeah.
here the whole time. And so much of it's been lost over the years. But there are a few good books that trying to keep everything alive and trying to keep the information out there so future generations can use some of these, like, a cattail. Everybody looks at that as something in a swamp. I'm looking at it like it's something I can eat, because I know I can. And I wish people would learn more about it. A lot of people don't know you can go scrape on a pine tree, scrape the bark off, and peel that white layer off and eat that white layer. It's nutritious, but it will kill the tree. Survival mode, you're going to eat that tree and kill it because I'm going to live first. But there's so much of it out here. I wish people would look into more that's natural. Wild lettuce, you tincture it down into a ball of black-looking muck, but it makes an opiate type pain reliever without the opiate.
Right.
But I don't recommend everybody to go out and start cooking up, wild lettuce, leaves and think they're going to go get high on it like an opiate. It's a pain reliever. It doesn't have opiates in it, but it acts off of the opiate receptors.
Right.
So,
which is what kratom does. Kratom activates your opioid receptors. You can get some euphoric symptoms and stuff from kratom, but they're not intense. They're very, very mild, and if you do get them, they don't last for a long time. But the things with plants like kratom and stuff, you got to be careful, because if you use them in excess, they can be damaging to your liver.
Well, of course, you could go to your spice cabinet, pull out cloves, eat a bunch of them. If it'll get euphoric, you're going to get real sick, and it'll probably shut your kidneys down.
Right.
So, I mean, heck, you can go get a gallon of gas and sniff gas for a while. So, I mean, yep, it's going to get euphoric. But, it's also something.
I'm not trying to deter anyone from using plants. I'm just, and I'm all for using plant medicines and plant sacraments and stuff. It's just make sure before you're using these, you're working with someone who is knowledgeable in them, that can teach you, that can educate you, and help you know how to use them properly and safely.
Mm-hmm. I've always noticed that the first ceremony for first timers is, it's a little rough on people, but everybody makes it through, and everybody's, like I tell them, you're one of the 0.0000000%, 0.1 of the population that's ever tried anything near like this. And it's always been pretty much always positive when everybody finally got their feet on the ground. I hope to have many more ceremonies the same way, which there's no reason for me to stop. I think in the future, I'm going to have to pick a couple different paths on our growth and how we can show people the spirituality and take them to this height of consciousness that they're looking for. To where, it's obvious that I can only have a church with so many members before I start needing another facilitator and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm a long way from that at this point. So if I stay, at the 50 to 100 people church, I can take care of that.
Right.
Because generally we'll have anywhere from 10, 20 people come at a time, and they're staggering months and weekends. So it's not bad for us at this point. But our plan to keep showing people that path to spirituality and consciousness, and even no matter where they're at religiously, where they're at right now. If you're a deep-rooted Christian, beautiful, and you decide just to see what this is about, there's one thing I'll guarantee you: wherever you sit, right then and there, there's only one thing that's going to happen: is your spirituality, your vibration after that ceremony is going to be that much higher.
Right. It's just going to deepen that.
Wherever you are, it's going to be better.
It's not going to take someone who's a Christian and convert them to a Muslim. It's not going to take someone who's one belief and necessarily convert them. Now, I have seen it take an atheist and make them believe.
Oh, I've gotten quite a few handful of people that 100% atheist, didn't believe. Nope, never gonna. And well, 8 hours later, they knew what the creator was.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they took the second cup of tea too, by the way, because I offered the second cup for those who want to expand that consciousness a little bit further and get to that geometric place of knowledge and wisdom that I love to go to.
Yeah, and it's getting back to the consciousness. I mean, we look at it, the early people that were following into the realms of consciousness were doing this, thousands of years ago. They were diving deep into this thousands and thousands of years ago. This
all
is
through
nothing,
the Bible, they're using sacraments all the way through the Bible.
exactly. This is
People need to look and see what them really were.
This is nothing new. This is not
Yeah.
the realm of using this. I mean, you look back into like the ancient Egyptians and stuff, and into the Syrians and stuff. They were using soma and other things along those lines. They were using all kinds of different sacraments and stuff that was giving them a connection to the divine, and opening up that consciousness to a whole different level. But then if you want to pull it into more modern times, we have guys like, Timothy Leary and Terrence and Dennis McKenna, who done a lot of research into exploring consciousness through these medications, through these plant medications and stuff. And they've done a lot of brilliant, beautiful work with it. And, the one thing that kind of bothers me is, you see a lot of people that use it in that, we talked about that festival mentality and stuff, and they look to like McKenna and Leary, but McKenna and Leary weren't using it for that reason.
Right. Yeah. Because of what they talked about and how they talked about it, I think put a little bit of the spin party mode on it. When McKenna started talking about machine elves and vibrating Fabergé eggs.
Yeah.
I know what he's talking about. Oh, sure do. I sure do. But I think you could have explained it to people a little differently, a little more maybe spiritually angelic. But yeah, I've been down that road more times than I can count, and I understand what he's talking about. But I think it just there was just a little bit too much of a party spin. But he also come back, and I respect Terrence McKenna's brother, totally,
Dennis.
100%. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, Dr. Strassman, the work that they have done over the years.
Stanislav Grof.
Yeah,
you talk about a great man that's in the process of that dove deep into studying consciousness. Grof really dove into it in a hardcore way.
Yeah, well, in Britain right now, they got, I think, forgetting which college or the university facility, but they have 12 people that they IV'd with tryptamine, where they're trying to map the DMT realm, they called it. Good luck with that one, guys.
Is Strassman leading that study as well?
No, he's not. Actually, no, but they took a lot of his information. And this is an all-new study with it because we got so much better equipment for, brain scans and everything. And,
right.
They're putting these people in there, for hours. And I'm like, all right, and boy, through an IV, for hours and hours. And
well, that's what Strassman done was through an IV as well.
Yeah, but it was just one blast.
Right. It was the 20 to 30 minute cycle wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're keeping them under by, just like anesthetic.
They keep administering to it. Right.
So you stay there. Well, I tried to sign up for it.
Hey,
do.
Johns Hopkins Hospital is doing a lot of study on psychedelics now, right?
Yeah. Tons of it. Yeah. With great results.
Absolutely. They are looking into it on using things like psilocybin and stuff with terminal cancer patients to help with their anxiety, to help with the depression, to help manage the pain, and to help them come to terms with what it is that they're dealing with and coming to this point of dealing with, the end of life. When they're terminal and you're looking at, all right, I'm most likely not going to recover from this. This is my time is coming. A lot of that anxiety and stuff that comes through, they've been doing a lot of research on this, but they've even started doing a lot of research with DMT as well. So they've been working with dimethyltryptamine and going into the studies and stuff on it. And there's a book that was just put out not too long ago. It was a year or two ago, called the DMT Dialogues. And it revolves along a lot of the studies and stuff that went along in some of the early stuff that they started doing there. I can't remember exactly who put that book out, but I remember Alex Gray was involved in some of the stuff with it.
Well, I know some of the new studies that I've read on the dimethyltryptamine, not the 5-meo-dimethyltryptamine, but the NN-dimethyltryptamine.
Which there's a drastic difference in the way the two work with you.
Bufo the frog is quite a different experience than NN-dimethyltryptamine.
Right, and just so we clarify, the 5-meo is from the toad, and the NN is from the plant.
Yeah, I like the plant better. I gotta admit, I do like the plant much better. But what they found, the tryptamine is on people who had strokes. You know how it deadens part of the brain where the stroke happened. Well, they found with doses of dimethyltryptamine that it was actually regrowing new blood vessels and new neurotransmitters.
Right, it's opening up the new neural pathways and stuff. Yeah.
And so our luck, they're going to take ayahuasca, which I want to tell everybody was patented in the was either late 70s or 80s, one of the two. There's a company that actually patented ayahuasca and the production of it back then because they knew of the healing benefits that it has.
Well, it's like
there's actually a patent on it.
Well, it's like the U.S. government owns a patent on THC, but the thing is, patent laws say that you can't patent nature.
Nature, yep.
So,
this guy patented the extractions, everything.
Yeah, trying to patent nature to me is just
trying to take nature away from me to use.
That whole corporate mentality and that capitalistic mentality is just something that, honestly, I believe we're going to see go to the wayside in time. It's just
I do too.
Just not serves. It just doesn't serve mankind in the way that it could.
There's big changes coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's big changes coming. Of what I see and what I feel, mankind has got some waking up to do. And I'll tell you what, from what I feel and see, it isn't too far in the future. And I know I sit back and smile about it because sometimes you know what's coming. And even though it ain't good, it's gonna be good for us as a whole,
Right.
But them are journeys and places that we keep going, looking into, and we're never gonna stop because we know how and what we feel like with our sacraments. And
absolutely,
I know me and the people that are with me, we stand hand in hand together with that. And we're going to help everybody that we possibly can that really needs mother in their life, with our little church. I've spent a lot of time and money over the years funding this out of my pocket. And really the true rewards is seeing and watching people overcome and just beating them down every day, just beating them to death. They overcome that. Them to overcome the things that they weren't able to until they took this little journey, and watching them morph through that makes it all worth it to me.
Absolutely.
Everything that I've had to go through.
And I know just from my own personal experiences that some of the traumas and stuff that I've experienced in my path, where I've sat with therapists for hours upon hours and going, hey, please help me figure out how to work through this, how to deal with this, how to cope with this. Teach me coping mechanisms to get through this. One night with Aya. More work and all of that put together for years and years and years of seeking answers, reading books, diving into psychology, studying psychology, trying to do every little thing. One night with Aya brings it all into perspective, gives you the
Yeah, it
tools,
will.
gives you the keys, and
Mhm.
it truly is. Uh, it's such a healing plant. It's got such great healing powers within it, but you have to go into it with that open mind, and that's where earlier I mentioned set and setting. We was discussing that just
Mhm.
briefly. And set talks about your mindset going into it, and setting is, of course, the setting that you're going to be doing it in. You need to be in a safe place. You need to be in an area where you're not having to worry about yourself and your well-being while you're there, knowing that you're going to be taken care of by the facilitators, and that you're going to be, just safe.
Mhm.
But that
Right.
mindset going into it is very important in being able to allow yourself to open up to receive the healing. And one of my oh man,
Receive it.
hold on a second, one of my lights just decided it was going to shift to super bright.
Oh,
Let me
better keypad that down, huh?
yeah, occasionally it does that and I have no idea why. So yeah, oh man. But one of the people in the chat, latest game reviews, just said, psilocybin was what it was for them, not ayahuasca. One night was psilocybin,
Mhm.
and it's
I
like that
use
with.
that also.
Oh
I
yeah,
do for sacraments. Yeah, you bet.
psilocybin,
Sometimes I'll start people out with that haven't um, that I need to step into it easier.
right?
I'll step them into that, and then I'll feel
Because
it.
honestly, when we start talking about the sacraments, ayahuasca is one of the big ones up there.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Oh,
big dogs when you start stepping into it, and people who aren't prepared, maybe stepping into something like working with psilocybin, going into it in advance, is not a bad idea. And
that's why I
psilocybin
offer it.
psilocybin is an amazing, amazing sacrament. I love it. I've used psilocybin myself, very, multiple
A lot
times
of
and
clarity.
stuff. And well, it's one of those things. People look at psilocybin, they're like, "Oh, psilocybin, how dangerous is it?" Psilocybin's safer than aspirin.
Right.
Psilocybin's safer.
Everything has a toxicology
Psilocybin's safer than
point
drinking
to
a
it.
soda.
Oh, for sure. I just tell people this might not want to drive. I mean, and
Well,
people ask
yeah.
me,
I
well,
mean,
what if somebody gets a hold of your ayahuasca or whatever? I said, oh, really? I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to be really sick.
yeah.
And they ain't driving nowhere. What do you mean? You can't drive nowhere.
Hey,
Trust
I
me,
will.
you're
I
not
will tell
going to
you,
drive.
it is a challenge to get from the bed to the bathroom at times.
Yes, that is
It,
correct. And
getting back.
trust me, you are not going to be worrying about driving.
Nope.
No DUIs with ayahuasca. Trust me on that one.
Nope. 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 You are in a place where driving is the last thing that you are absolutely thinking about. You just want to make sure you're laying down somewhere safe and comfortable, and just
Yeah, I mean,
eh,
why worry about driving?
going
Because I'm
going
going to take you from where you're at, and I'm going to put you on the other side of the universe in 1 hour.
Exactly.
So,
With
what are you worrying
ayahuasca,
about
you're
driving
going on a
for?
journey anyways, and you're going on a
Oh,
whole
it's a big
different
one.
kind of journey, and it's not a place that you can get via car.
Yeah, and that's there's definitely we all know how many people are out drinking and driving. We just look at the newspaper, the arrest reports, and that's right. I've tried to tell people, law enforcement, and that you might look down on sacraments we use, but I might be looking down on all the stuff that's legal that's really killing people. Because to be real honest, man, people at my church, we're all chill. There's never no kind of issues or trouble. Um, it's just a very different group of people.
Right.
And we can all be together. We do this. We watch each other purge, we work with each other, and we all keep in contact and love each other. Where you get, just go to your local tavern or whatever on a Friday night and prepare for battle, that kind of
Right.
lifestyle.
I
That's
I
nothing.
used to be a bartender, and I stopped bartending because I got tired of the bar scene. To be honest, I didn't stop because I
It
wasn't
gets pretty
making
old.
great money. I was making amazing money as a bartender.
Sure.
I'm actually technically a certified mixologist. I got a degree in mixology. And,
Right, right.
you know, and
I got
so
one in chemistry, obviously.
hey, I won't lie that my degree in mixology doesn't cross over into other aspects, all right? It gave me a
I
good
understand it
foundation and a
very well.
basis to cross over into other aspects that I'm going into now. So it was a good early training.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I understood. I'm glad I paid attention for that in school because I didn't for much anything else. But boy, I had it down in chemistry. All
But
the joking aside, and I'm glad, I'm fortunate that I chose. I went down the left road instead of the right road per se. But that left turn that I made was the right turn, and
exactly.
it changed my life. And I might have mentioned it before. Through being in construction all my life, I went through some injuries. Cooler dropped on my head. Besides a boat running me over and killing me, I've been smashed up a few times. And I ended up on opiates 30 years ago, and I was on them for 20 plus years, addicted. But that's when the doctors addicted you, and this goes
Oh
back
yeah.
before the opiate crunch. Well, I got tired of it anyways, after 20 something years, and I decided to throw them away. Didn't work so good. Oh, this shit's really got me bad. Hooks rimming. So the withdrawals were horrible in that, and if it wasn't for these sacraments, I may not be talking to you today.
Oh,
That's the honest truth. Because of my opiate addiction, ayahuasca, dimethyltryptamine, is why I'm cleaning in front of everybody
I've
this day.
dealt with a lot of chronic pain issues throughout the years. And you deal with chronic pain, and this was before the opiate addiction or the opiate crisis hit us as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And so one of the things is doctors are like, here, take this.
Oh, I
They
had
were
Oxycontin, sure.
they were pumping me with 10 325 Norcos and told me I could take 8 of them a day.
Worko, yeah, tons. Yeah.
And taking 8 10 Norcos a day is not a good thing for your liver.
No, the Tylenol in that really eats the liver up, and they found over recent studies that 250 milligrams of Tylenol a day is actually harmful to the liver. I mentioned that to my doctor, and he said, "Well, where'd you get that BS information?" I walked back out. It was nuts, man. I walked back out to his lobby, and I got the magazine. I was pissed. I brought it in. I said, "From your office," and I handed it to him. So you're
Oh,
wanting to give me that with 750 milligrams 4 times a day? Oh, you're putting 5 times the amount of toxic Tylenol into my liver. Thank
right.
you. Oh, how about bumping up the other part of it and taking that out? So I had to school the doctor. That's a shame, by the way. But
I straight up have told my doctors I will not take acetaminophen unless it is absolutely necessary. I know that in the tramadol there's some acetaminophen, but I
yeah,
even take that in very sparingly. It's something that right now I mean I've been open about it. I've got a hernia in my abdomen that I've been
mm-hmm.
dealing with, and sometimes I get pain that just I have to take some medication to deal with, or it's going to get me bad enough that I'm in the ER.
Mm-hmm. I
And then
understand
they're
that.
going to give me something a lot stronger and a lot more powerful with a lot more crap to it. And so occasionally I do have to take something. I'm not a big fan of taking medications personally. I don't take them unless it's something I absolutely have to take.
Oh,
And
sure.
especially opioids
Yeah.
and opiates or any kind of painkillers whatsoever because of the addiction issues around them. And while
Mm-hmm.
it's not that, it's the physical addiction that your body gets to them,
Horrible.
and
Horrible.
it's terrible. I had a major surgery back in 2019, and I had a pretty bad surgical wound that took about 6 months to heal up, and I was on a significant amount of painkillers because of the severity of the wound and everything that it was taken to heal. And I tell you what, the doctor screwed me over so bad. When it came time for me to get out of the long-term care facility that I was in, that I was in for rehabilitation to go out of the rehabilitation center, I didn't have a primary care doctor, and so they just said, "Here, whatever you have left is what you've got left, and when you run out, you're out. Sorry." And so I was left without a way to step down off of these opiates in a proper way to, come out of dealing with the withdrawal effects.
Oh, it's
Luckily,
horrible.
luckily enough, I had enough knowledge of plant medicines to know what to work with, and I went straight to working with kratom to bring myself to step down off of these things and
I did too.
not deal
I
with
used kratom too for a
yeah.
while. Yep. To step
And
me
if
down. I used kratom to step me down.
yep,
And then I got to a point where I knew it was time. And I sat down and facilitated myself, and I went on that my own ceremonies for a few days. When I was done with that, I was done.
yeah,
That was the end of it for me.
yeah.
I was in.
And
Now,
now
have I taken opiates since then? Yes, I have. Have I always made sure it was for pain only? And it's all it was, and it was never more than 3 days
right,
because I knew better.
right.
I'm not going to tempt fate. I've been cured of it. And the withdrawals people, I mean, the people that have been with the opiates know it's horrifying. It feels like there's somebody inside of you trying to tear through you. And my only relief from that, it wasn't methadone. All that did for me was keep it going. Suboxone, same thing. It kept it going.
I was never
Ayahuasca.
I would never say that I was quote unquote addicted to
Oh, I was.
I mean, I after 6 months of being on them, yes, there was a physical addiction.
Yeah,
But
you were addicted. You bet
but,
you were.
But I wasn't at the point where I was going out searching. I knew what I had left was what I had left in my supply to use. And I started stepping down on those. And then when it came time, I said, this is what I'm going to use to step down. And so I was able to bring myself down and off of them. Yes, there was a physical addiction, but I didn't have the psychology.
Kratom helps you a lot.
The kratom helped amazingly.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the kratom, I would have been in a bad spot coming down off of everything, especially going cold turkey like they were doing with me, which honestly, no medical professional should have ever done with me. That was an absolutely horrible way for them to treat me. But I was no longer in their care facility. I didn't have a primary care that I could get into right away. I was in a situation where getting into a primary care wasn't necessarily going to be something I was going to be able to do easily. And so I was just kind of tossed to the wayside. And honestly, if it hadn't have been for my knowledge of plant medicines and knowing to go to use kratom to step down and work down from this, so I would have went through horrible withdrawals, which could have done a lot more damage to me in the long run.
And at some point we'll obviously get deeper. I probably won't be the last time I'm on your show, but
oh no, absolutely not.
We got a lot to talk about.
After the show tonight, I'm going to ask you when you want to book in again. Actually,
okay. But there is one sacrament I want to mention to people that I am very well trained with, and there again, we'll talk about this in the future, maybe on the show. But this sacrament's been in the 80+% for success rate. The sacrament also has a very huge benefit of removing the withdrawal the symptoms of methamphetamines and opiates. So the withdrawals are what usually gets people right back on the dope.
Right.
If you can eliminate the withdrawals, then I have a fighting chance, and I can battle them demons and help them overcome the rest of it. And there's only one sacrament I know eliminates the craving. And we'll go over that more and in the future in another show.
If anybody wants to know specifically about that, contact me through the Discord channel below. Join the Discord. Here, I'll put the link to the Discord in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link below in the description that will have a link to join the Discord server. I know exactly what he's talking about. It's something that I've actually been studying, haven't had the opportunity to work with, but I have studied it from reading about it and diving into as much knowledge that I can get from it without actually having had the opportunity to sit and work with someone who has been
You
trained
will.
in it. I know I will. I know I will. And it's honestly something that I'm really interested in, but there are these plant medicines, and even ayahuasca does a lot to help with addiction.
Oh, huge.
I can do a lot, but this one that we're talking about takes it to a whole different level. And if you want some information on ayahuasca, that's some good solid information, go look up Graham Hancock's banned TED Talk on consciousness. It's basically about 15 to 20 minutes of him talking about ayahuasca.
I'll have to check that out. I've
It's great.
literally
I'll grab the.
hundreds.
I tell you what. After the show, I'll grab the YouTube link and I'll send it over to you on Facebook, and then I'll also post it into the Discord channel. I'll post it up under the Breaking Reality tab in Discord. So if people want to watch that, they can go over there and click it and check it out. It's an absolutely great TED Talk that he did, and they banned it because he went into talking about consciousness and how this plant medicine, how this sacrament, and then it's funny, they kind of revert it, and it's not necessarily so much banned anymore, but it's one of those things that they don't want to really push.
Yeah.
But they originally banned the TED Talk, and they slipped information on this. The video got out. And people, originally the people at TED Talk was really upset that this information got out.
It's amazing you mention this because I've had some files put away, good videos that really specifically target the tryptamines and Egyptians, the Anunnaki. It really talked a lot about that, and I had quite a few different videos, but they were hand-picked because of what their content was. I got them all deleted. Deleted all through
You've brought up the Anunnaki a couple times. I got to ask you, do you know a gentleman by the name of Michael Lee Hill?
Michael Lee Hill? No.
He does a lot of work with the Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get you in contact with Michael on Facebook. You might enjoy talking with Michael. I'll get you over to some of his research and stuff too.
Definitely. Most definitely.
I have talked to Michael in the past about being on the show, but he has such a busy schedule. We just haven't been able to get him booked in.
Sure.
I'm going to talk to him again here soon and see about getting him booked in on the show, because I would love to have him come on and talk about the Anunnaki.
Oh, that would be absolutely great. And there's a bunch that I can add to that. That would be a good show.
You know what? I might that night, Gene, see if you want to co-host with me.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If that is a topic that you're deeply into and you'd like to get into some discussions with Michael on that, I have no problems bringing a co-host in and sitting back and letting the co-host, kind of run the show with someone, especially if it's something they're more knowledgeable about and they want to tackle some questions with this guest on.
I'd love to. Yeah,
I'll sit back and listen and soak up the knowledge.
That would be very good. I think that I hope the viewers enjoyed what we talked about. I mean, we got off track a little bit, but we stayed on. Of course,
hey, it happens. It happens with the show. We go off track, we come back on track. We go off track, we come back on track. Some shows we stay on track better than others. Others, we're all over the place, and that's that's how it goes.
And I think it was, and I hope it was informative for your viewers.
I think it was.
I'm here to, be proud of what I do as I am. I'm proud of my shaman work, and I'm proud of my little church and the people there.
There's some people already saying they love the topics in the chat. So, one thing I want to do before you leave, before we call it a night, I want to open up to the chat. If you guys have any questions, please ask. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. If we go over a few minutes, that's fine by me if it's okay with Gene. But if anyone has any questions, by all means, please ask, and I'll relay those over to Gene, and we'll do the best to answer any of your questions you've got. But we can also continue chatting in the meantime.
Oh yeah, cool.
I thought you was just
getting
you was,
repositioning.
yeah, you was modifying your camera there. I thought you was trying to show off the your shirt and
Ah,
uh,
sacred. Yeah, sacred.
yeah. It's
Right.
the Metatron's
Well,
cube, right?
yeah. See, as you know, and most people know, that geometry is, it's comes right into most all of our sacraments
Oh
for a
God,
reason.
yes.
Yeah. See, now that geometry math that I call, it's more what we're seeing is the dimension of it that we can see and understand. But what I've found to realize with knowledge and wisdom where we go is that geometry that we see, that's just a little bit we can just understand to see. But what it really is what we're being shown, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is the creator's math, the
Oh
creator's
yes.
quantum math. And it's not
Oh,
ones and zeros up and down. This is in a spiral that I see, and it's quantum math like no way to comprehend or understand. And it's not up and down. It's whirls, and it's
I'm at
continuous
that
movement.
point that you're at in ceremonies where I'm getting that the geometry and diving deeper into geometry and into the math and learning to understand the keys of creation. Now we did have a
I've
question
been
come
on
in.
that path. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a really beautiful path. It's really interesting, and I tell you what, my ceremonies that go into that, I'm just awestruck during them
I
constantly.
bring all my ceremonies go into that special. All of my people get to that point with it because that's what I strive for. Because that's where the true learning and knowledge comes from, is when
Oh
you get
yeah.
to that height. But
So so we did have a question. Gigi Puck, who's one of my mods. Thank you for modding tonight, Gigi. Puck,
hello.
I absolutely love you. You got to meet Puck the last time that we tried to do the
Oh
show.
yeah, yeah, yes,
Um,
yes.
Puck asked, "Does humor have a place in spirituality?"
Thank you for asking me that question. By the way, you know, on the many, many, many ceremonies and journeys that I'm on, because every ceremony I'm on a journey one way or another. Yes, there is humor,
Absolutely.
and they've played with me, and they've joked and made fun of different things, all in good heartedness. And you say they, and you're probably wondering, what do you mean they? You're gonna have to come sit down with a cup of tea with me then. But
Well, I mean,
and I'll
and
show you.
there's even humor among us outside of the ceremony and stuff too. I mean,
And
and
there
it's
is.
important of it. And I've even learned from the elders and different medicine people and stuff. If you get to spend time around a lot of the elders and the medicine folk and stuff, they are not serious unless they absolutely have to be. They know the time to be
Oh,
serious, but the rest of the time, oh my god, they will pull your leg left and right. It is
I'm
jokes,
the same kind of
it
shaman.
is pranks, it is silliness, it is cutting up, it is being goofy because of the seriousness of what is dealt with when we have to
Yeah,
deal with it.
it's so heavy, profound. It's so much energy drawing out of me that I have to put a lot of humor into it
Yeah.
because I want it to be happy and a fun place for one. But the all of that Persian that people do, all the most rotten stuff that's happened in their lives, I get to feel all that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle all that? Boy, it's not easy. And all that emotion, though, I've done this for so long, and I'm starting now to learn to harness it. And we talked briefly earlier, and I wanted to highlight on it. We didn't get to that part. It was talking about group meditation. And see, I'm trying to get some people caught up, not really caught up to me because it'll never happen, but walking a better path with me to where we can sit during ceremony and we can put all of our thoughts into it collectively. When that happens, then you see powerful things start to happen.
Oh yeah.
That's when what I like to do in ceremony is we take a person that's in need, and what we're all going to do is we're going to give that person everything we got. And here,
Well,
to help them out. And that power of prayer, the way that I do it, is very powerful.
Gene, I want to touch on something about shamanism versus in older days versus the way we address it now. Shamanism now, we give the quote unquote patient the sacrament to work with. A long time ago, they didn't give that person the sacrament. The shaman took the sacrament, traveled to the spirit realm, and done the work that was needed on the spirit realm and on that other realms and other side, because they were highly trained in doing that. They was attuned into doing it. That was what they done. And the shamans, for the most part, there was a reason that the shamans always lived at the edge of the village or the community, and it wasn't to separate themselves out and away from everyone, but it was because they lived in another realm most of the time, and while they was part of that tribe and part of that community, they had to have their space to do their work, and they weren't always in that same dimension, that same realm, and they had to have that sacred space set aside for them to work in. Right. And so the way shamanism was addressed in the past versus the way it's being done now, which I have no problem with the way it's being done now, but there is a very important aspect of the shaman and the facilitators that are there working, and the energy that they are using while they're working with this person, being in a union and working together to help this person heal through whatever it is. And I don't know for sure, but I'm going to say, I bet you have had someone that has been under and having a hard time, and you have went under yourself to contact and bring them back.
All the time. Yes, often. Yeah. And during the ceremony, I also consume the ayahuasca. Now, I generally won't take the second cup because I got a lot going on, for one.
Right.
And anybody that's had a cup of my tea, this isn't the tourist blend in Peru. I'm the real deal. So I get in that realm there. I keep that foot there. I got to take my other foot, bring back here, plant it down. Now I'm in between here and there, and I can work with my people.
Right.
It's very hard to do.
You're the portal.
Really hard to do.
You're holding space as a portal and a doorway in between the two realms to go back and forth as need be. If you have to work with someone in this realm, you work with them in this realm. If you have to work with them in the spirit realm, you're crossing over. And yeah, correct. It's a really difficult place to stand.
Yes. And then after a cup of my ayahuasca, I'm telling you, my sacraments, they're designed to do what they're supposed to. I'm not knocking them in the retreats and that, but I kind of am. It ain't about me getting somebody dizzy or
getting someone to see some pretty colors and stuff.
No. Oh, I'm taking you a whole lot farther than that.
Yeah.
Oh, I might even take you right to God. But
been there.
Me too. Another show.
We're gonna have a discussion later. You're gonna enjoy that story.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I think as time goes by, more consciousness takes place. More and more people are going to come looking, and what we need to be is right here for them. Absolutely. And I'm going to offer me to all of them. And I hope I'm doing well for ONEC and representing how I am as a member.
I think you're spot on with what you're saying. The time for the age of consciousness to be awakened. We're in the process of a great awakening, and that it's been going on, but it's really starting to accelerate right now.
Oh, it is, and I'll tell you, there's a reason for that too. We got another big one coming up. Corona was just a little bump in the road that I heard about before it happened. There's bigger things to come. And by the way, I'm not a prophet, never claimed to be. I don't want no affiliation with none of that. And I don't read properties no more. I don't like being I felt like a circus act, when people, doing stuff like that, I don't offer myself that way no more.
Right.
It's all about spirituality.
And the thing is, as horrible as this pandemic has been, and the loss of life and stuff around it, which
My mother died a week ago.
I lost my mother back in December to it. So I mean, it's. But one of the things that this pandemic has done is it has forced people to sit alone with themselves and not be distracted by as much of the stuff that we have been distracted in society. It has forced us to sit and look at ourselves in a way. And a lot of people who don't do that, I know you and me probably sit and do that more than anyone, because that's just part of our path. That's who we are,
Yeah.
When you start down this path, that deep introspection and looking at yourself in a different way is just part of it. I mean, and it's part of a daily practice in it.
You're exactly right. And there's daily practices too. That was something you just brought up that I really stress out to all of my people. Is when you wake up in the morning, most people are grabbing that phone. They got to check their Facebook and all this bullshit drama in life. Leave that trash alone. Put it off to the side. What I tell people, when you wake up and you're just coming out of that REM moment, this is the time of the day for you to set something and set it in concrete. Set that intention. So I teach my people, when them eyeballs are just rolling, before you move out of bed, before you do anything, you get yourself still. You're still coming out of that beta zone. And then what you do is you think about what you need. And you think about what you got to do that day and set that intention. Set that intention, then take the rest of the day and live it. Do that every morning. Oh, it's cute, dog.
Oh yeah, Tanner makes an appearance in just about every show.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to bring Susie Q with me next time so I can show her off. I got a white German Shepherd.
Yeah, this is Tanner. He's an Italian Greyhound Chihuahua mix, and he's my companion animal.
Well, that's awful sweet. Yep. I love dogs. I love all animals. And I love to eat them, too. Not dogs, though.
Not dogs. Other animals.
Yeah. I like my wild game.
He wasn't going to eat you, buddy.
Yeah, right. Well, it does kind of look like a hot dog in a way.
He looks more like a chubby burrito.
Got a point there. Got a point. So I'll tell you, are we good here for tonight? We'll close it off.
I think we're at a good point to go ahead. I think we're at a good point to go ahead and close this off. If you got anything else you want to say in final words.
Final words. If there's anything anybody's searching for, is there anything I can help you with? If there's absolutely any direction I can show you, get a hold of Joshua. He knows how to get a hold of me. I will do everything in my power to help.
Absolutely. All right, everybody.
Everybody be blessed.
I want to say thank you for joining us tonight on an episode of Breaking Reality. Gene, thank you for being the guest tonight. It has been a pleasure. We will definitely have you on the show again. This has been a great time. I want to let people know on Thursday we're going to have Irina Rose on. She's changed the topic on me, so I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be discussing. So I need to get a hold of her and figure out the topic for sure. But as you know, on the show, we don't always stick with topics.
We've kind of went over a few of them.
Exactly. And then on Tuesday, May the 4th, so a week from tonight, Demian Gover's going to be back on, and we're going to be continuing our series on the universal spiritual laws. I believe we are on the law of supply. Or no. We've done the law of supply. We've done the law of attraction. We're on the law of receiving is where we're going to be at. So the law of receiving is what we're going to be talking about. And then on the 6th of May, we're going to have G. Desiree Fultz, I believe is how it's said. And we're going to go into an intro into Theurgy. I think I said that right. But we're going to go into an introduction to that. So if you don't know what theurgy is, it's going to be a great show. You're going to get some great information, and it's this. Yeah, just tune in on the 6th if you get the chance.
I will myself, no doubt about it.
You already know what it is. You're just waiting to see what information we discuss that night.
Yeah. For any of the audience, our church is Vine of Enlightenment, located in Fayetteville, Arkansas. www.boe-ayahuasca.com.
Gene, my guest on the 6th is in Fayetteville, Arkansas as well.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Small world.
You don't know Desiree, do you?
Boy, Desiree sounds really familiar.
Desiree Foltz.
Let me write that name down. Oh my Lord, really?
They do a lot of stuff with music in the area too.
I may know her.
All right, I'll send you some information a little later, but it's a small world because I got family down in that area too.
Yeah, right. And I'm not that far, and you have an open invitation any third Saturday of the month between 5 p.m. and midnight.
Absolutely. I tell you what, when I get down that way, we will definitely make it happen. So once again, Gene, I want to say thank you for being our guest tonight. We'll definitely have you back on the show again. Everybody, thank you for being here tonight. I know we've went about 10 minutes over than what we normally would do, but hey, it was good information. So we will see you guys later. Everybody have a good night and be blessed.